Have you ever sat down in your absolute favorite coffee shop, popped open your laptop, and just let it automatically connect to the free Wi-Fi? I mean, we all do it, right? It happens entirely in the background, completely transparent to us. But I really want you to stop and ask yourself a question today. Is that invisible network actually what it claims to be? Or is it a trap just waiting to snap shut?
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving into a completely fascinating, entirely unseen world that exists right in front of our faces. We're talking about the invisible battlefield of wireless signals. We're going to take a journey that starts with a physical threat in the airwaves right next to you and plunges deep into the back end of enterprise security. It's an absolutely brilliant look at how these attacks actually happen out in the wild and, more importantly, how we defend against them.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the explainer. First, we'll look at the evil twin threat. Second, exploiting Active Directory. Third, Wi-Fi positioning systems. Fourth, wireless intrusion prevention. And finally, we'll wrap up with advanced mitigation techniques.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the evil twin threat, which is the point of physical contact.
Now, you might be wondering, where does a cyber attack actually begin? Well, the most crucial thing to understand about network security is that an attacker's very first move usually doesn't start with some complex string of code. It starts with physical proximity to the radio waves bouncing around the room you're sitting in. Enter the evil twin. This is a fraudulent Wi-Fi access point that literally mimics a legitimate one. It broadcasts the exact same name, the SSID, so your device thinks, oh hey, a familiar friend. And listen, this isn't just some theoretical lab experiment. Back in July 2024, a man was actually charged by the Australian Federal Police for running an evil twin network on a commercial domestic flight. He set it up specifically to steal the credentials of his fellow passengers mid-air. Crazy, right? Let's break down the exact sequence of how this trap is sprung, usually through what's called a captive portal attack. Step 1, the attacker creates that fake network name. Step 2 is kind of aggressive. They launch a denial of service attack against the real access point, effectively knocking it offline. Step 3, your laptop, which is now completely desperate for a connection, just auto-connects to the attacker's fake but very strong signal. And finally, Step 4, a fake web portal pops up asking for your login. The very second you type it in, boom, your password is stolen.
Moving right along to Section 2, exploiting Active Directory. This is the back-end breach.
So, the attacker has your wireless credentials. Bad news, for sure. But honestly, that's just the key to the front door. The real prize for these guys is the back end. They are going after the Active Directory, which is essentially the identity manager for the entire organization. Once they're inside, attackers unleash techniques with wild names like Kerberos sting or password spraying. But a particularly fascinating area of exploitation happens around multi-force trust boundaries. Back in a 2021 Black Hat webcast, researcher Dirk-Jan Malema actually demonstrated exactly how Kerberos vulnerabilities can be manipulated to completely break these trust boundaries. Basically, it allows an attacker to easily leapfrog from one network domain into a completely different one. What starts as a simple, localized Wi-Fi breach rapidly escalates into a total, devastating system compromise.
All right, let's shift gears to Section 3, Wi-Fi positioning systems, or visualizing the battlefield. We've seen the attack, so how do network defenders fight back? Well, it's like a giant puzzle. They start by physically fingerprinting the airwaves. Defenders use a handful of techniques to visualize where signals are coming from. First up is RSSI, or Received Signal Strength Indicator. This just uses signal strength as a rough proxy for distance, which gives you about a 2 to 4 meter error margin. Not bad, but we can do better. Fingerprinting is much more precise. It matches a signal against a pre-recorded database of the physical area, tightening that accuracy down to a median of 0.6 meters. Then there's time of flight, which literally measures the nanoseconds a signal takes to travel back and forth for room-level accuracy. And lastly, angle of arrival uses multi-antenna arrays to calculate the exact angle of an incoming signal. When you combine all of these together, defenders can map out exactly where every single device is physically located in a building.
That brings us to Section 4, wireless intrusion prevention, guarding the airwaves.
Okay, so knowing where devices are is a huge piece of the puzzle, but it's only half the battle. The other half? Automatically neutralizing bad actors using wireless intrusion prevention systems, or WIPs. If you're setting this up, you essentially have two deployment choices. You can go with a network implementation, which keeps all the servers, sensors, and the console entirely locked down inside a private internal network. Or you can use a hosted implementation. This keeps the sensors physical and on-site, but they connect securely over the internet to a cloud-based server. Both of these options are absolute game changers for fulfilling strict compliance standards like PCI DSS, and they do incredible work behind the scenes. Instead of just looking at MAC addresses, which, let's face it, are incredibly easy to fake, these systems analyze the unique RF signatures of the signals themselves to automatically detect and block spoofing.
Finally, Section 5, Advanced Mitigation Techniques. We're going to look at context leashing and EAP SWAT.
Let's push this to the absolute cutting edge of defense. What if the network itself isn't protecting you? How can your own laptop or your phone defend itself against an evil twin? Traditionally, your client device just looks at the network name of a target access point, shrugs, and connects. But as we've already learned today, names are incredibly easy to fake.
So security researchers developed a brilliant technique called context leashing. Instead of just trusting that target access point blindly, your device actually starts looking around its whole neighborhood. It detects all the background signals coming from other nearby access points. Think of it like your laptop taking a mental photograph of the unique radio environment around it.
By surveying all those distinct access points floating in the air, your device learns the unique context of a highly specific physical location. So imagine an attacker sets up an evil twin at the airport, desperately hoping to trick your laptop into thinking it's your local coffee shop network. While the surrounding background signals at the airport are going to be completely wrong, your device instantly recognizes that context mismatch and straight up refuses to connect.
But how does your computer actually mathematically prove this? It uses something called the Jacquard similarity coefficient. I know, big words, but it's basically just a formula that calculates the exact overlap between the safe network context your device already remembers and the new context it's currently observing. If that similarity drops below a certain mathematical threshold, the system immediately flags the network as a potential evil twin and halts the automated connection.
But what if an incredibly sophisticated attacker perfectly replicates the exact physical context too? Like, they clone the whole shebang. Well, this brings us to the final lock, EAP-SWAT, which stands for the Simple Wireless Authentication Technique. It works a lot like a secure SSH connection. It relies on a trust-on-first-use principle to establish a highly secure one-way TLS session. The access point provides a self-signed cryptographic certificate that is mathematically bound to its identity. Once your device accepts it that very first time, they share a secret key. So even if an attacker perfectly clones the network name and perfectly clones the physical context, they still do not possess that underlying cryptographic key, which means your device absolutely cannot be tricked.
So we've journeyed all the way from a hacker spoofing a network midair on an airplane straight down into the mathematical formulas and cryptographic keys designed to keep our devices locked down and safe. It is an ongoing, invisible war happening all around us every single day, which leaves us with one final, lingering thought to ponder. Knowing how incredibly easily the airwaves can be manipulated and cloned, how much do you really trust the invisible signals surrounding you right now? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.